What's going on, everybody? You're tuned in to the Air 2 Anchor Report, giving you all things New York Jet and Tampa Bay Buccaneer football. Right now, we are on Playoff Sunday. It is January 26th. Got a slate of games on today, so I figured today would be a good day to drop this video. Not to mention, there's been a lot of things unfolding in the head coaching positions for both of these teams, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and for the New York Jets. So, while the dust settles and all the facts come out on who is going where and who is doing what, you really don't want to jump the gun and you really don't want to drop something too quick, because as you can see, or as you know right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their departure with Liam Coen kind of made a lot of us look real silly, thinking that the Buccaneers had that wrapped up, but obviously that wasn't the case. So basically, let's get into it. Let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, obviously they've undergone a significant coaching change, and really they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do to improve that performance that they're going to lose on that offensive side of the ball. You know, the experience of a wild departure with Liam Coen, the offensive coordinator, leaving to become the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. That move was just out of the norm and really just came in like a tornado whirlwind. You know, Cohen's move was unexpected, but especially after he was already poised to become one of the highest paid offensive coordinators in the NFL with the Buccaneers. They had a handshake decision, but his decision to join the Jaguars, you know, left the Buccaneers in search of a new offensive coordinator at this point. You know, so really a crazy move. Obviously, Coach Todd Bowles, he's addressed a potential staff change. You know, he came out on record and said, you know, while specific replacements have not been announced with who's going to take what position, the importance of evaluating their coaching staff internally first to maintain that competitiveness in the up-and-coming season is really going to kind of be where they start and where they dial in first. Liam Coen is not just going to be somebody that they're just going to find on the street, you know, with another team that needs offensive coordinators out there. So if you're a Jets fan and if you're a Buccaneers fan, you know, this goes hand in hand, because the Jets right now, they have not made any decisions on what their offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator positions are going to look like. So if you have the Buccaneers out there right now also looking for an offensive coordinator, you really got to think, what job looks more attractive? Yes, the Jets right now look like they're on the right path to doing things the right way and putting the proper coaching pieces in place when it comes to the hiring of the head coach with Aaron Glenn, and then also with them signing their new general manager. So yes, it seems like they are taking the baby steps, but they're doing it the right way. They haven't given anybody contracts. The general manager has not been involved to bring anybody else in if you're a New York Jet on that head coaching staff. So they're slow playing what they got to do, but things are really moving quickly. But now with the offensive coordinating position coming open in Tampa Bay, if you look at that offense and you look at that team in general, they're already fit for the playoffs and possibly a Super Bowl contention coming next year. Now, with losing Liam Coen, obviously the dynamics of that offense is going to change. They're going to need to find somebody quickly that is going to be that ahead of his time when it came to coaching and calling these plays out there to make Baker Mayfield, make the offense, make the run game, make the passing game look what it looked like this year, which was a high caliber top 3, top 4 offense. Now losing that, and really Liam Coen kind of backdooring the Buccaneers after, you know, they were going to make him one of the highest offensive coordinators in the NFL. Really, his backdoor move just kind of came out of nowhere, right? It was a wild decision to make. I think he took 2 interviews with Jacksonville. The first one the Bucs knew about. The second one, he basically kind of backdoored him and just basically went up there to Jacksonville on a secretive co-op mission, you know, left everybody unread, and basically just ended up signing a deal behind closed doors to make him the, you know, head coach of the Jags. The thing about it with the Buccaneers is, you know, normally they have a tendency of doing things their own way as well. You know, they kind of churn and burn with their coaching staff. You know, maybe Liam Coen kind of seen some writing on the wall, but not enough that it would have put him out of contentions to possibly, after this year, be the head coach front runner for the Buccaneers if things didn't work out with Todd Bowles and the Bucs didn't have the season that they wanted to coming into next year, making the playoffs and then possibly getting to the Super Bowl. So just a real head scratcher of a decision to be made, but it kind of is what it is. And the Bucs right now are in that boat where they need an offensive coordinator. So do the Jets, and with the handful of coordinators that are out there right now, the Jets they're not in a good position. They're behind the 8 ball, because if I had to pick, what team I would want to go to, I'm obviously going with the team that's already built and geared for playoff contention. Now, subsequently with that, you already know that Aaron Glenn was appointed the new head coach of the New York Jets on January 22nd. Just to give you a little background on Aaron Glenn, he was a former Pro Bowl cornerback with the Jets. He's an experienced coach, brings a deep understanding of that New York culture and the comprehensive football background when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. All of his former mentors, all of his former teammates have expressed the confidence and his ability in revitalizing this team. Now, also moves that were made in the front office, the Jets have hired Darren Mougey, the Denver Broncos assistant general manager, as their new GM coming into the new season 2025 for the New York Jets. So, a quick turn of events there. We went from Lance Newmark possibly being the general manager. There was a couple of other names that were thrown out there on the list. The Jets really kind of interviewed a lot of people, and they interviewed extensively with who they wanted to put in this position. This was Mougey's second interview. I believe his first was on the 11th, and then his second was on the 22nd. They finally narrowed it down. An extreme turn of events. Newmark was out of the picture. Newmark obviously having ties with Aaron Glenn from Detroit. So you kind of were putting and drawing the dots on that connection there on why that would have been made. But they end up going a different way. And really, Darren Mougey is an interesting pick, because as he has a lot of experience in the NFL, he also is known as a numbers guru, and he really kind of transformed and turned around the Denver Broncos back in 2022 when he got hired as the assistant general manager to be able to kind of transform that team into what they are now. Obviously, you see where they are. He was involved in the drafting of Bo Nix, not to mention the crazy, dead cap space that the Denver Broncos had. Mougey kind of restructured a lot of things for them to be able to bring some players in, dump a lot of that dead salary cap, and then also build a pretty formidable Denver Broncos team. So, he's been in the league for a while. I want to say he's been in front office for about 20-something years. I know he's worked under John Elway as well, and I believe he was a part of the 2014 or 17 Denver Broncos Super Bowl team. So, he's got some experience. The good thing about him is that, he's known as a motivator, if you would. He's also a younger gentleman, which makes, this a good move, for looking at things with fresh eyes, fresh perspective. But if you look at what the Jets are doing right now with hiring Aaron Glenn, and then also hiring, Mougey, they're basically, kind of putting something together here, and they're doing it strategically with really trying to revamp and change the culture over there. Now, also regarding the head coaching staffs, under Coach Glenn, no official announcements have been made by the Jets concerning the position of the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinators. However, there have been several candidates that have been discussed, and a lot of rumors that have been coming out with some offensive coordinator candidates that have been talked about by Eric Glenn. You have Nick Caley right now, who's up there, former tight ends coach for the New England Patriots. You got Scott Turner, who is probably the last on the list. He's the defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. Clint Kubiak, which is a high up there on the list, offensive coordinator for the Vikings. Excuse me. And then you got Mark Brunell, former NFL quarterback, but also current quarterback of the Detroit Lions. So if you make the connection, very interesting, right? You look at the lineage of what's coming out of Detroit, and obviously Mark Brunell working with Jared Goff over there, and then also working with, some of that offensive coordinating style, bringing that to the forefront. I think he might be one of the front runners. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but really my main decision, or my best decision, would probably be Clint Kubiak, former offensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. So you have both of those guys right now that, can really step in the building. They got experience. They've been on successful NFL franchise teams, and they can basically hit the ground running. That's what we're looking for. That's what New York is looking for. They're not only looking for an offensive coach that is going to be a motivator and that guys want to run through a brick wall for, and apparently with Aaron Glenn's personality, that's exactly what he brings to the table. He's a player's coach. Guys will go above and beyond with what he's giving them as that motivation and the game plan coming, and unfolding to get them to really play, how would I want to say, they really are looking to play accountability football, right? Hold people accountable and do what they say you're going to do. Aaron Glenn brings that to the table. I do think that the Mougey position as the GM, granted, I'm not a guy that follows general managers, but we were definitely looking for an assistant that has been on plenty of teams, that have turned teams around and have been a part of that culture change, to take some weaker teams in the beginning of their tenure and turn them around underneath their watch, whether they've been the general manager or if they possibly been on the assistant side. Being a fly on the wall in the room also gives you a lot of credibility, because you've seen and you've been there with turning these football teams around and seeing how it's done in the front office behind closed doors. So I think Darren Mougey does bring that to the table. But, back to the offensive coordinating position, I think Mougey and Glenn are going to sit down and they're going to want to kind of put that together. I don't think there's any favoritism coming into one person or another, which is really a breath of fresh air. And it kind of looks like Woody Johnson's really kind of just backing out and staying out of the decisions and everything that is being made. So, kudos to the Jets right now. They're really kind of putting something together. And really, it looks like it is going to be a change and a turn of events and a turn of a new chapter for that New York football team. Anyways, that's what I got today. Excuse me. Enjoy the slate of football games that you got coming up. As me personally, I like to see the Cinderella team, kind of make it to the Super Bowl. I'm looking at Washington, being those guys. And I definitely want Buffalo to go ahead and take care of Kansas City. So, my picks right now at the end, you got Buffalo and you got Washington. I think Washington might make it past the Eagles. I don't know. Things have been crazier. I think everything that I've said this year, if I go with the opposite, it's probably what is going to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if Philadelphia does win. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? So enjoy. And then, let's keep it trucking, man. Appreciate y'all rocking with me.